Hey, welcome to Soul Centered. I am Baruch Levi, B. Soul Centered is a center for meaning, purpose, and healing in the afternoon of life. And that's what my wife Ariella and I designed Soul Centered to be, as a place for people, midlife, 40s and onward, to have meaningful conversations around this chapter of our life, this half of our life, and discovering new goals, rules, and tools, because we're not taught this. Our society, our educational system, our conversations revolve around the morning of life, the first half of life, and we don't even realize we carry those rules with us into the afternoon of life. And as Dr. Carl Jung said, what was true in the morning will ultimately prove to be a lie in the afternoon. So we need truth in the afternoon, especially around midlife, which is entering the afternoon, because I guide a lot of people through what we all call midlife crisis. Midlife crisis is something I know personally, having gone through one, having come from a family that has dealt with them in a very tragic way. My grandmother went through a later than midlife, but midlife crisis. My father went through a midlife crisis. Both of them killed themselves, completed suicide. I've spoken about it many times before, and I would not say it's because they had a midlife crisis, but I would say that a midlife crisis offered them an opportunity to become an awakening, just like it offers everybody an opportunity for an awakening, if we're conscious, and if we can not only name it into a midlife awakening, but reframe it, re-experiencing it, I'm trying to think of other re-words, to consciously navigate it with intention. And so the starting point, whenever I meet somebody who is either describing a midlife crisis or they say they're in a midlife crisis, is to stop. Because I just wrote a blog on this, you can check it out on mysoulcenter.org. Our natural reaction in that moment is to run, right? At midlife, and I hear it in my clients, I say it myself, my midlife crisis was revolved around my profession. I stopped feeling it around 40 years old. I was in a profession that you couldn't fake. You shouldn't fake any profession, but there are certain professions you can do great harm. And being a clergy, rabbi is one of them. If it's not a calling and it's becoming a paycheck and a check mark and kind of dialing it in, then it's your obligation to step down, to step out, to listen to where you're being called towards. I ran, and we went to Israel, and I don't regret going to Israel with my family, but there was a running element of not realizing what I was running from. I thought I was running towards Israel in a vision of my life, and really in retrospect, I think I was fleeing from my profession and disentangling myself with the identity of rabbi, which still is a work in progress, but I'm much farther along. Again, nothing about being a rabbi or being clergy or about Jewish or religion or anything in that statement other than we have to live our life. We have to live our voice, our vocare, and express it in a vocation. And a vocation could be how you're paid, but it can just be how you show up in the world. Vocation means voice. And so it's about finding your voice and not running off to try on new voices, to try on new masks, personas, masks. That's morning of life stuff, and it's perfectly appropriate in the morning to run off and try on as many personas, as many masks, as many identities as we can. That's what the morning is for. But if you do that in the afternoon of life, you cause great damage. How many men have I counseled who believe what they want is that woman, that other woman besides their spouse, their wife? How many people in general have I counseled who are just ready to quit their jobs and go be the artist? Yet they have bills to pay, they have responsibilities. How many people have I guided who believe that the secret sauce, the spark that is missing at their midlife or the afternoon of life is out there, outside of themselves? Fill in the blank: a motorcycle, a sports car, a hobby, a dream home, the list goes on. And it is never once manifested into reality that, yes, they were right. That's where their spark was, because it isn't. It's never outside of us. The spark is always and only in us. See, the morning of life is about self with a small s. And so we go running around looking for our selves, personas, trying all this on. But what happens at midlife and onwards, and the calling of the midlife crisis, is to stop looking for little self and start looking for big self, for true self, for authentic self with a capital S. Maybe you call it soul. And that happens only when we stop. When we stop running away from what it is we don't want, figuring out the truth about what we're dealing with, speaking truth to ourselves, but to somebody outside of ourselves to bear witness to our lives. That's the role I play in people's lives. I say this to them all the time. I don't believe in hell as a devil with a pitchfork. You know what hell is? When I'm counseling a man who starts to believe his own bullshit, starts to believe his own lies, and is woven those lies, rationalizing them into the fabric of his reality, and he believes they're true. Or at least at the surface he believes they're true. Bernie Madoff, and I don't counsel people that deep into the lies, but the Bernie Madoffs of the world probably didn't start off as complete liars, as evil for sure, but one lie leads to another, and pretty soon you start believing your lies. So the role I play, or somebody should play in your life, is to bear witness to your life, to help you see the truth, because when we're in it, and I was in it, we're knee deep in it, you can't always see the truth, hear the truth, feel the truth. You start to lose your compass, up and down and right and wrong, and how to move forward. And we need somebody or something outside of ourselves to support us, to nurture us, and help guide us forward. And so that's the opportunity at midlife and the afternoon of life, is to build a foundation of truth. And maybe you end up divorced, and maybe you end up changing professions, and maybe you end up moving to a mountaintop in the Middle East like I did. Talk to me first before you do that. And maybe you don't. But if you do, it's built on foundation of truth. It's never built on a foundation of lies. If you're willing to show up, to do the work, to face the crisis, the emergency, right? To emerge from the emergency, to arise from the crisis as an awakening. And that happens, it can and will happen, but it only ever happens if you stop running, looking for the answer outside of yourself. If you find a trusted companion or a tribe of trusted companions to help hold the space for you to hear the truth, to speak the truth, and then for you and only you to find and live the truth. Until then, until the next time, I am Baruch Levy B. Also, I would love to hear from you. So shoot me an email, Baruch, B-A-R-U-C-H, or I think even B works, b@ mysoulcentered.org. Shoot me an email. Send me a message. Would love to hear from you. Whatever you're facing, whatever you're enduring, would love to be a resource for you to help guide you through the darkness and into the light. Take care. Shalom. Namaste. Peace.